Daily Detroit is brought to you by the community. Support our work at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
Hello and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. I am Jer Stay, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. Joining me remotely from somewhere hidden away on the east side of Detroit is none other than Fletcher Sharp. How are you?
All right. It's reaching the part of the year where it's a little bit chillier than I would like. I don't really like going outside and seeing it thaw out and then refreeze over it for the night. But, that's what it's like to live in Michigan. So I kind of just got to embrace it.
Well, and I was going to mention it later in the show, but I guess I'll mention it now. Metro Detroit is in line for 5 to 7 inches of snow on Wednesday afternoon. So that's something to be ready for. But Fletcher, it's February. We're Michiganders. I feel like after a number of years of doing this, I'm sorry if you're new here, but this is kind of just how it is. This is part of the game.
It is. As I've grown through it, learned how to adjust as a Michigander. You keep a lot of salt around the doorways, not outside, because if it freezes, your salt will freeze into big old bricks, and then you have to break the salt before you can use it. But definitely keep a lot of salt around to make sure that you lay some salt down for the postal workers and people coming up your front stairs. Also, if you have pets, especially dogs, maybe don't leave a bunch in the backyard because you probably don't have dog-friendly salt, and the vet bill for them eating that is not good.
Well, the dog-friendly salt, too, is important for their paws because it can get caught in between their little toe beans, and that's why it's paw-safe salt in the back for me and regular salt in the front, because that is a very real thing,
I just don't ice the back. We just have an adventure every time we step in the back and hope that it's a slushy day and not a frozen over day, or else it's going to get real silly in the backyard.
Let me tell you what not to do. I know somebody who decided to pour hot water over the ice to try to melt the ice, and that just meant more ice.
Did they fail science?
I'm just saying.
I was in applied chem, so I'm not really one to talk, but even I know that. You don't put out the fire with more fire.
I have seen a number of wild ways people have tried to clean off their walks. What is the craziest one? I want to hear it from people. dailydetroit@gmail.com. Fletcher, the Super Bowl, we weren't going to talk much about it because the Lions aren't in it, but there is a Detroit connection and a personal connection I wanted to shout out because you seem to be pretty happy about that Eagles win.
The Eagles have traditionally had a few players from the state of Michigan, none more so than Brandon Graham, who is a big Detroiter. Everyone knows about him. Everyone's happy he's got his second championship. I am a little happy the Eagles won. A player I used to coach, we were in the same organization, the Detroit Dolphins of Pop Warner, Avante Maddox. Starting cornerback, Cooper DeJean got really good, and Avante got put on the bench. He's 100% all effort from Pop Warner to Detroit Pal to Martin Luther King, to University of Pitt, to the Eagles. And to have them make it 2 years ago and them lose, I really stung for him. I was happy that he got a chance to experience it, but I do know how much experiencing Super Bowl wins, even getting there, is a very hard thing. For him to finally get a chance to play and play well, even make a pass breakup, and then get the victory in the end, I'm really happy for him because I know how hard he's worked, especially from when I've seen him as a young kid to now. I know especially how hard he's worked, so I'm really happy that he finally got the boulder up the hill.
I gotta say, I'm all for silver linings, but fingers crossed that Detroit is there next year. That's what we all really want, to be honest.
Oh, for sure. Some people don't. Some people just want to complain about the Lions front office because they just can. But the general person would love to see the Lions get their chance to hold the trophy up next year. And a lot of the coaches are saying that, they should still be good. Missing Ben Johnson won't necessarily be great, but someone has referred to Jared Goff as a savant in terms of football and thinks he can do his best without Ben Johnson. So hopefully everyone is right and the Lions don't necessarily need Ben Johnson. Otherwise, it's going to be really weird when they play Chicago.
Yeah, we're not going to spend a lot of time on sports, but I do have a quick question for you. One question about the Lions. The Eagles were super strong. They didn't have to blitz. That force.
No. I know what you're asking. No. The answer is no.
Do you let Brad cook or do you go out and get one of the names?
I trust in Brad. He has not done anything that would make me think that he doesn't have the Lions' best interest at heart, save for re-signing Kendall Vildor. But outside of that, like, there really wasn't much they could have done this year. And that Lions team everyone loves, they were not beating the Eagles. Like that, I'd much rather they lose the way they lost now than lose an even worse way with much bigger eyes in the NFC Championship. So they can put that to bed now.
They getting nervous, I seen it. What I seen, you wouldn't believe it. They say they want it, I need it. Damn, I'm going dumb like I dropped out of class. Get in my lane and I'm going right past. I turn it up.
Well, we've got 3 transportation stories we're going to get into today. Axios Detroit reports that Amtrak and transportation officials are looking at a new multi-modal station at Michigan Central Station in Corktown. The facility would serve both trains and buses, supporting a proposed Chicago to Detroit to Toronto rail corridor. The project could revive passenger rail service on the campus of the iconic station that last saw trains depart in 1988. Now, Fletcher, I rode one of those last trains in the 80s. It was a big deal for my dad to take me down to the station before it closed. He was convinced it was going to be demolished. Well, he was wrong on that one. But I got to say, this service, to be clear, would not be in the station. We did kind of mention this on a previous episode of Daily Detroit a while ago. Not that we had like all the facts in line, but that we generally had a gist that this was a possibility on an episode with Norris Howard. Interesting to see a little bit more rolling down the track, if you will. How important to you would it be to say, do Chicago, Detroit to Toronto? I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there. I will say that there's the Greyhound station over by Howard Street. You know, there's talk that there would be something done with that. And then plans have kind of fallen apart for doing something with that Amtrak station by the New Center. It's just the tracks line up weird to do it at Michigan Central again, but I'm curious your thoughts.
The Greyhound station, I was told, was supposed to have like been shut down like 3-4 years ago. My brother took a ride up here to come visit me from Cincinnati and was like, yeah, I took the bus here from, I went to the one at Howard Street. And I was like, I thought it closed. Like, knowing now from this past 6 months that it's still there is kind of a testament to Detroit grit in terms of stuff not going away. I think any routes that will connect Detroit to Chicago or any other major city in the area, I'm all for. As much as Amtrak has been my nemesis in the past, they do run a solid company. I'm not one to fret if they're going to offer more routes to more local cities.
Okay. How has Amtrak been your nemesis?
I used to ride Amtrak a lot when I had an ex-girlfriend who lived in Ann Arbor. Because I didn't have a car at the time, I would take the train up, take the train back. It was right around the time when I started, right around the time that while going through the station and New Center, the train would slow down because it can't go as fast. They had regulation reasons. I wasn't listening. I was just more annoyed that the train was slowing down. And every single time they did that, I would miss either a connection somewhere else if I was going further, or I would miss being able to get something to eat when I got to Ann Arbor. So like one day back when Twitter was new, I tweeted something at the Amtrak Twitter, like, yo, come on, man. Like, this has to stop. And someone replied something else, and I said something about them doing it intentionally, and they liked the tweet. They liked the thing I said about it being intentional. And I was like, you know what? Whatever, man. Amtrak. If there's no Amtrak haters left in the world, it's because, I'm no longer here. But they are a solid company. They can get people from A to B well. They have a good history of doing so. So I'm not going to be mad at another opportunity to get to another city from Detroit or for somewhere to come to Detroit.
I would like to see faster service between Detroit and Chicago. I know that there is a lot involved with that, whether it's track sharing, max speed you can do on these tracks, stuff like that. But to me,
the bridge,
there's just so many things where I just look at it and go, why can't this be a much better thing where at least it could be like equal to drive time or something, or I want something like that to exist. And I keep feeling disappointed in my train dreams, but I've had train dreams for 20 plus years in Metro Detroit, and I still have truly not been satiated in almost any way in 2 decades. Take that for what you will. Let's go to the roads. Grosse Pointe Woods plans to overhaul the intersection of Vernier and Mack. This is described as that city's most accident-prone, with more than 60 injury accidents in 2 years. This has been kind of previewed by the Grosse Pointe News, the Detroit News, and others. It's a $1.7 million project funded by grants and ARPA funds, and it would basically eliminate left turns in favor of Michigan lefts. So no direct left, you have to do the Michigan left, and add new pedestrian features. The redesign will impact an area near 2 schools and a library. The work is scheduled to begin in April and complete in time for Labor Day. As somebody of the east side, I can tell you, I have never liked that intersection at all. No way. So I feel like this is a good thing.
It's a silly intersection. If you're not from even if you are from Grosse Pointe, but if you're not really from the area surrounding and you get to that intersection, you have no idea what you're doing. You'll pull up thinking you're supposed to turn, and then you'll see cars gun through and you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to turn. But then you'll have people honking behind you like, why isn't this person moving? I've seen so many near accidents. I've been thankful to not see any actual accidents. But I've seen so many people just pull on through and a car is whipping down the street and they're like, well, I'm supposed to turn. Or they talked about this early in 2022. And I'm glad to see them finally actually do something about fixing it. Because again, there's a school right there. There's a gas station across the street where like a lot of people tend to congregate. There used to be big boys over there. There's something there now. There's a bar not too far away. There's a pet shop around there. A lot of people walking around in that area, and you don't want someone to step in an intersection and whip through too quickly. Very dark joke. There's a funeral home right there, and we don't really want to make that next stop right after. So hopefully they can take care of this and lessen that a lot. Because if you're not from the area at all, like you don't know what you're doing, and everyone's yelling at you no matter what you do.
Man, that big boy. So many memories over the years. That and Alanosi's, the ice cream parlor. Those are the two things I think about most. And the pet shop. I mean, it's crazy to me. I mean, Big Boy in general has been something that's been through a lot of trouble lately. It doesn't necessarily surprise me, but I remember when all the kids from Grosse Pointe North would always steal the Big Boy.
Yeah, shouts out to Lou Malnati's Pet Shop. It's really great, small mom and pop place. But yeah, that Big Boy, that's where I embarrassingly ate 24 strips of bacon.
What?
I was very sick the following day, but they're like,
how did you do this? Okay, first off, how old were you?
Old enough to know I shouldn't have done that, but not an adult.
How did you do this? Was it all at once?
I walked up, they had the little bar where you can scoop stuff, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to take this piece of bacon and take this piece of bacon and then take this piece of bacon. And then I sat down after 6, and then I came back for another 6, and then I came back for 4, an even number. I don't remember. I know I topped out at like 23, 24, because when I came back finally, my grandmother was like, hey, you should stop. Like it might taste good. It's not all good for you. And I was like, okay. And then the following day I was so sick.
What a salt bomb. Oh my gosh. That's got to be like you must have had like half the Detroit salt mines in your body.
Like thinking about it right now, if I even thought about eating maybe 5 or 6 pieces, I could feel my arteries just close. So I can't imagine what I was doing then to eat that much at that age. But obviously I survived it because I'm still here.
Well, let's finish up talking about a Michigan State University survey that found that the state's hands-free driving law is working, they say, with 96,000 fewer drivers using handheld devices compared to last year, a drop of more than a percentage point. Drivers under 30 were twice as likely to use devices while driving compared to those 30 to 59, and 6 times more likely than those over 60. The study also noted a post-COVID decline in seatbelt usage from 94% to 92%. You know, that law, I know people who've been popped, especially in the suburbs, like Royal Oak, Grosse Pointe, Woodward Corridor, really been popped for distracted driving, just having a phone out. I am one of those annoying people who will not answer the phone while I am driving if it is not set up for hands-free. I just let it ring. I don't do texts because I can't do it. Like my brain just doesn't have the ability. And I know that people get mad at me because I'll pull over to make a phone call. I know I'm weird like that, but like, what do you do?
I mean, there have been times where I've been trying to reach you for a story and like you get back to me an hour, you're like, I was driving. And it's like, I understand. And like, that's very safe, but also I didn't know what to do. So now I've just been sitting here, but I
have been known to drive like a grandma.
I am someone who I'll admit there has been 1 or 2 times before where I had my phone and was looking at something and then looking up at the road. I stopped doing that just because my partner is very much a nervous Nelly, but that's also unsafe driving. And we had a talk, and she was like, look, when you do that, it makes me uncomfortable and I don't like it. And I was like, you know what? That's very valid. I got you. And I am someone now, if my phone can be put on speakerphone, if I can play something out of Bluetooth through the speakers, then I will have my phone where I can answer it maybe through my watch or something, and I'll talk to the car. But otherwise, if I can't answer the text, if it's not something that I can ask Siri to say very quickly in response, then it just needs to wait, which stings. But also what really stinks is you looking down to answer your phone and you looking up and you're plowing into the back of some pickup truck because you did not know to stop because you really thought it was funny to answer that text at that time. I'm really glad that it has cut down because I know they were really pushing hard about implementing that. And I know some people are like, what's the effect? Is it really even going to matter? But like now you see people, if they look at their phone while they're driving, it's super quick. Like it's a very quick glance and they're like, all right, I got to get back on the road. I don't know if it's because they want to be safe drivers. I don't know if it's because they don't want a ticket. Whatever the reason, I don't really care. The result is that there's been a lot less accidents in that area as a result. And I can live with that. And I'm sure everyone else could as well.
I was thinking about my habits here, Fletcher, and I think, on my luxurious amount of money that I make doing this show, I basically only drive older cars. Like nothing that has, like the only time I have entertainment systems is when I'm reviewing something. Sometimes I get vehicles in to review or write up or do something like that. But outside of that, I'm driving older vehicles. And unless it's like already pre-hooked up, I don't use the older technology with it. Like I guess I could use speakerphone or something, but maybe that's why I don't do it.
Yeah, I have one of those cassettes that you push in and it has like a Bluetooth connector. And then I just play music through the speakers onto my phone. So like if I can answer it and it goes through there and I can talk to you and you can hear me well, then I will speak into my phone. If I can't and I'm somewhere like where I can put my phone on speaker and answer it, then okay. But if it's like if I'm on I-75 going the speed limit, maybe 5 over because it is 75 with someone behind you, and someone calls, unless I'm looking over and it's not, I can't even think of someone, I'm probably going to look at my phone and say, dang, and then either get off the exit if I can and then call them back and say, hey, is everything okay? Or something else. People don't realize cars are like death machines. Like it's very scary how quick something that fast can move and change a lot of people's lives. So the fact that they finally have people really listening to maybe don't use your phone, maybe don't do your makeup as you're driving, maybe you don't need to try to eat all of that sandwich while you're driving. I'm all for it because safer roads, especially somewhere like Michigan where we all essentially need cars to get somewhere, you want to be safe there.
I have a weakness driving. And you know what that weakness is? It's driving with a donut. I drive with a donut all the time. Whether it is a Dutch girl donut, whether it is a yellow light donut, the donut to me can be the perfect driving food. As long as it's not too like sprinkly or crumbly, it's the donut. If you catch me in an embarrassing view, it's going to be on Woodward with a donut.
I mean, a donut or a bagel is fair. You can put that on your finger. You can hold the steering wheel, pull it up, take a bite, and like that's fair. Like that's a fair. I'm not going to say necessarily say it's great, but that's easier than say you wanting to eat a calzone while driving. Like what's wrong with
like a foldable New York style pizza driving?
I've seen someone like eating a bowl of soup, like out of like one of the plastic containers that just like you went to Whole Foods, came out with that, and you thought this is a great time to eat some lentil soup. Like this is actually probably the worst time. Maybe wait till you get home, man. I'm hungry too. Like, I have a BLT right next to me. I'm going to wait till I get somewhere or safely to eat it. I'm not going to eat it whipping between traffic and 94. I think that's irresponsible, but that's just me.
Well, I'd love to hear what you all think. dailydetroit@gmail.com. 313-789-3211 is our voicemail. 313-789-3211. I want to hear what you think. Do you eat while driving? What do you think of these driving laws? Have they changed how you feel about it? Do you think they're stupid? What about turns? Are you a Michigan Left fan? Any of this, would love to hear from you. dailydetroit@gmail.com. With that, I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Fletcher Sharp.
Thank you so much for listening. Remember that you are somebody. Tell a friend about your Daily Detroit, and we'll talk tomorrow.